What is going on, IVE Warriors? It's your boy Edward V. So let's go ahead and talk about a study that released this year that unfortunately the media does not want to touch, and it involves alternate day fasting. The media and everyone who's so against intermittent fasting were so hyped about that single paper study that recently released, but completely neglects this gold mine of a study. Let's go ahead and break that down in this video. Stay tuned. Alright guys, quickly before we start, this video is brought to you by yours truly, Fledge Fitness and the Fledge Fitness Jump Rope. If you haven't gotten yours yet, what are you waiting for? With an ergonomic design, aluminum handle, and swivel design, you can't go wrong with the Fledge Fitness Jump Rope. Only $16.50. You can click on the top right hand corner of this video or down in the description box below. And of course, as always guys, thank you for your support. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Alright, so what is this study that I'm talking about? What's this crazy gold mine study that I'm referring to? Well, this study was released in August 2020. There were some corrections and things like that done, and it was updated in October of 2020. However, it was published in August of 2020, and the major findings were not modified in any way, shape, or form. But no major publication or any anti-intermittent fasting pundit touched on this study. So what this study is doing is that it's an intermittent fasting study that only looks at alternate day fasting. But the beauty of this study is that it is a meta-analysis / systematic review. So this is essentially a study of studies. So they looked at all of the alternate day fasting studies that have a control, a randomized control. So it's not just controlled, it's also randomized. They wanted to ensure that the database only had randomized control trials that use alternate day fasting as the intervention versus continuous energy restrictions or other interventions like maybe 3 meals a day or 4 meals a day or 5 meals a day, things like that. And to keep everything as modern as possible in terms of the data, they only use recent studies. So they set up a few criteria other than just a randomized control trial with ADF, alternate day fasting, and the intervention arm, but also they wanted to control for age, and they wanted to make sure that the study provided information on BMI, fat mass, lean mass, information on total cholesterol, waist circumference, things like that. So they really wanted to make it very rigorous. They wanted to tightly control, because although the number one thing in research in terms of looking up information on a specific thing in science, meta-analysis sits at the top. But even the design of the individual studies can lack. So you might have a meta-analysis that's not a strong meta-analysis. When a meta-analysis is determined to ensure that all of the studies selected are randomized controlled trials, you have a very powerful and very strong meta-analysis. And that's what this study did. The study was published in the Journal of Metabolism on August 7th of 2020. It was run by Ji-Hyun Park and colleagues. And what they found in this study was that alternate day fasting was significantly more effective than continuous energy restriction in terms of fat mass. It was also more effective in terms of body mass index, so BMI reduction. It was more effective in that as well. It was also more effective versus the control arm when it came to waist circumference, but it was significantly more effective for waist circumference, specifically for people that were 40 and older. So this is being seen within 6-month periods. With all the studies that they had, they looked at over 85 studies. Only 8 of those studies were included because they met the rigorous criteria. Of the 8 studies, it included over 728 people and found that body mass index was reduced in the alternate day fasting group. Fat mass was significantly reduced in the alternate day fasting group. Waist circumference was significantly reduced in the fasting group. And even total cholesterol was significantly reduced in the alternate day fasting group. And this was significant with people who were overweight. Now, it goes hand in hand in terms of methodology with the study that everyone is singing the praises for that just released, that I did a video on in terms of intermittent fasting not providing effective fat loss versus just controlling for calories or 3 meals a day. And it used the same setup because it allowed for the alternate day fasting group to eat ad libitum, which means that they can eat as much as they like. So it did the same setup as this recent study. They wanted to look at the spontaneous eating and see that the satiety cues may go up because of the fasting period. Well, this was a yin to that study's yang. Completely different, an opposition in terms of the results with a better system using the same type of methodology for a longer period of time. This is why I say when you see one study, you have to take that data and respect the data of any study, because what they do is they build groundwork for better and more diverse and more accurate meta-analysis. But when you have a meta-analysis, you are stepping into the hierarchy of scientific research. And when you have one that is tightly controlled, as this alternate day fasting meta-analysis is, you have essentially the creme de la creme in terms of research. Now, the one important thing that I want to talk about in this study is that lean mass was also part of this meta-analysis. Alternate day fasting and control arm both kept the same lean mass. There was no significant difference in lean mass. Keep in mind, alternate day fasting is much longer in terms of the fasting time, as you will eat one day, not the next, eat another day, and not the next. It's one day yes, one day no, one day yes, one day no. That's way longer in terms of time versus time restricted eating, which was the 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating, that was applied to that recent study that saw that lean mass drop when they ate ad libitum. Well, for all the pundits out there that love to take jabs at intermittent fasting, this alternate day fasting study is a longer fasting period, is a longer time frame, contains more participants. It's a meta-analysis that only applies randomized controlled trials, and it sees that there is no difference in lean mass. No significant difference at all. So you could add this to the pile of meta-analysis that show that fasting protocols do have a significant advantage over just calorie restriction. And the advantages that we tend to see are advantages in fat loss. Not so much in building muscle or anything like that, but definitely advantages in fat loss while still being able to preserve muscle. Please keep in mind what you eat is incredibly important, as an adequate protein intake as well as physical activity will help facilitate muscle growth or preservation. So that is important. But in terms of the intermittent fasting protocol itself, fat loss, BMI reduction, waist circumference reduction, all of that was seen in the ADF group over the control group, all while maintaining the same amount of lean muscle tissue. Now, I'm not saying that calories in versus calories out don't matter. I'm absolutely not saying that. They more than likely were eating less calories because they reduced their body weight significantly over the control group. And to reduce body weight, you have to reduce calories. That's automatic. But this is the exact design that the other study was utilizing. Ad libitum eating, because what they professed was that one of the benefits of fasting is that satiety cue and understanding that you're full so you're not overeating, and you actually tend to reduce calories organically because of that. This is what happens when you look at multiple studies and not just one study. Hopefully this video has helped you guys. Just keep in mind this is an alternate day fasting meta-analysis. I will also attach a intermittent fasting, just an overall intermittent fasting meta-analysis below that show similar results as well. But I wanted to touch on this because this study came out this year and none of those publications said anything about this, but dive headfirst into a study that is just a single paper. When we all know, especially in the research community and the scientific community, that meta-analysis are at the top of the pyramid, especially a randomized controlled trial version of a meta-analysis. And of course, as always, I want to thank my patrons for my Patreon. I'm going to go ahead and put their names right up here.